It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
The Walksnail FPV system. I need a servo for that pan and tilt assembly right there. Those are 3D printed parts. A carrier for the digital transmitter, and this is a pan and tilt for the camera. But it is a Walksnail. This is the video receiver here. The bummer is the servo for this is not coming till the end of March, 1st of April. I do have other servos around here, but I do want the 180 degree servo. The other ones only go 90 degrees, so don't have a lot of just right and left and forward. I want some 45 degrees backwards on each side too. Can't get full 360 with this, but such be life. Well, I stripped back the wires just a bit, put them alligator clips on them, going to my bench power supply. Set the power supply for 12 volts, shows 11.99 volts there. Turned on the bench power supply. I have a red and green blinking light here. I have it connected to USB here. And let me see here. We're not getting that hot because I've got this fan blowing directly on it. Don't want to let it get hot. But no. Not getting very hot yet. I'm not going to let it run long. I'll show you what's going on the screen. This is the program I use to control my bench power supply from the computer. And you can see I set it up for 12 volts right here. I figured that kind of split the difference between 6 and 25.2 volt range. And 12 volts just kind of was better than 14 or something like that as a common voltage. So I just supplied 12 volts to it here. And when I did, it popped up as a USB drive. And there's nothing on it. And I would suppose this would be where I would put the new firmware, copy that to it. I don't want to do that right now because I'm not sure about it all yet, but I would say this right here, the Avatar Sky 29.33.16 image. If I copied this to that drive, basically, and rebooted, I think it would upgrade the firmware. I don't know what firmware's on it yet. Don't know how to tell. Don't have the receiver working yet. Just got the transmitter doing something for the first time. Can't find many instructions on the internet either. When I look in here, this drive is a 6.98 gigabyte drive. Not even 7 gigabytes. We'll call it 7. Call it a 6, sort of. Anyway, it's not going to hold much data. Well, I guess at 1080 it's not going to be as bad as 4K. I don't know. We'll see. Just seems like a very, very low amount of data here. And I've got a 128 gigabyte card in the video receiver. Not sure what all those do yet. What is saved to here? I've been seeing things that you have to do basically what I'm doing right here and connect it to a voltage on the bench and then use this USB cable to download what will be videos in this area right here. I don't know. Doing this all for the first time. So there's not much else I can do with the transmitter without a receiver, so guess I'll just shut down the voltage on it. Click, click, and that shuts down the USB the E drive is gone here, you see, because the voltage fell. If I turn the voltage back up, then the E drive will reappear over here. There it is. No, don't want to format it. There it is. Yeah, and probably doing that back and forth isn't good for it. So, let's see what happens. Yeah, we can eject it. Yeah, we'll eject it this time. That might be a better treatment of it. Let's see what happens this time when I shut it back down. It was ejected properly. And then power it back up. So I get a bad format message. And there's E back without any kind of drive needs formatted message. So before we do this and power it down on the bench after pulling stuff out of it, looks like we really do need to eject it. Couldn't wait. Okay, now we'll power it back down. Got no reason to leave it powered up anymore until I get the video receiver connectors tomorrow and can get the video receiver showing me something on a screen. Until then. We have our first signal out of the Walksnail. This is the little 12-inch monitor I set up. And we can see here we have life. I'm going to let you watch along with me while I see this for the first time. There we go. This has not been unlocked. So we've got channels 1 through 3 and the CHP. That's all. That's fine. Playback. We don't have anything yet stored in it. So there's nothing to play back. Settings, the camera's not connected, so this is just the display itself. And one thing I'm looking for is to see the device. There we are. Okay. It's not really goggles, it's just the standalone VT VRX. 29.33.16 firmware version. Okay, good. And now let's see. Now we can go back to, oops. Channel, need to do the unlock. Share isn't enabled till after the unlock. Might not even be working in the firmware yet. I'm not sure. In here, display. I'm going to leave these at the defaults for now. Oops. Record set. Oops. Man. PTX record. Both format. Okay. And then finally device here. Oops. Not real sure of the way the toggle, the jog button and the other two switches work. Reset all wake signal, remind. Okay. So for me, don't think there's much more I can do here. Need to take it out of, I put it in advanced mode, what do you call it? Unlock it. And don't have anything there yet. So I'm going to
shut this down. I do have a little bitty problem. I think I can fix it in another way. I'm using my bench power supply right now to power this video receiver, and I was using it last night to power the transmitter. So I need to get them both powered. I can just use a battery on this receiver. I'm going to video this. I don't know what we're going to see. I've got them both powered up, and I'm going to hit the buying button on the transmitter. And then I'm going to hit the buying button on the video receiver. I don't know if there'll be any indication on the screen at all. There's the buying button on the transmitter. And there's the buying button on the receiver. Oh, we have something. So we did see something. We saw the firmware versions do not match. Please update the firmware. Well, which ones don't match? Check. Oops. Where's my glasses? Goggles 29.33.16. Transmitter 28.32.10. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Boy. So, wonder how we do this. So I'm going to have to back off and figure out how to upgrade the transmitter. But it's working. Whoops. See if we can get that out of the screen. There we go. Whoa, that's a pretty good picture. Well, compared to the analog I'm used to, that's a pretty good picture. And let's see. While we're here, camera, camera, sharpness, saturation, no. Transmit power, 25 milliwatt frame rate, standard, resolution. I would like to change that. Whoops. To 1080. Whoa. Everything just reset. So it could go into 1080 mode, and this monitor handles that too. I knew this was a good monitor. Okay. So display. Brightness, don't need anything there. Record set, 1080 60. Record load both, record device both. Okay. Device. Getting a little better. Like getting around in these menus. Playback. Nothing to play back yet. Okay, get out of this completely. Now if I press record. I start recording. You can see right up here. We're beginning to record. That's cool. And 15.4 volts. Oh, that's because I hooked up to a battery instead of the bench power supply on the receiver, but I've still got I've got the transmitter here on the bench power supply. That's why it says 11.8 and this one says 15. So this is transmitter voltage, this is receiver voltage. All the rest of that is fairly, whoops, that said no SD card for a second. Oh well, let's turn off recording and then see what we've got. Playback. Ah, we've got one there. And there's the playback of that. It's not bad. Okay. VTX overheating. Ah, rats. I forgot to put my fan on it. The fan was blowing in another direction. I just moved it around. You can see now the VTX is going back down. Well, was going back down. There we go. It's going back down. Man, bummer. Okay, so need to figure out how to upgrade the firmware on the transmitter, and then we'll look at some other things. Well, I just learned several things. This thing gets hot quick. If you don't have something like this fan to blow on it, I wouldn't use it on the bench without it. And I may even have to get a better cooling solution. I also figured out when I saw the videos that are recorded inside this that it was out of focus looking, kind of because I didn't take this little lens cap off the front. So we'll get another one of those files and see how that changes things. Let me stick this in a cup here so I can keep a hold of that little lens cover. But when it's not connected to the transmitter or the receiver and not actually transmitting, it stays cold as ice. As soon as it starts transmitting, even at 25 milliwatts, this thing gets hot as all get out. Let's look at that file real quick on the computer. I recorded another short video of about 30 seconds. Let's connect to the Walksnail video transmitter with USB. And as soon as we connect, we get the contents of what it calls its E drive. Now this video, if I double click on it, just a little more clear than the previous one. As you can see here, it doesn't have the little clear dust cover, whatever, on it distorting the video. So that one looks pretty good. Let's also look at, I'm going to disconnect that USB cable from this. I'm going to get rid of that file first just to empty out the Walksnail video transmitter. Going to eject E, and then I'm going to power down that USB. Okay, now then, I had to format the card in the Walksnail video receiver. It didn't record the first time. Let me see if we can see the contents of that SD card for the second viewing. It pops up like this. I'm not sure why. Pops up as an F, nothing on it. And the properties of that drive is 118 gigabytes. And then this one, E. E has all the stuff on it. And E's 254 megabytes. Don't think my partitions are quite right in that. I have to redo this card, probably reformat it in the receiver and then do another test and see if that gets it straightened out. But this is the video recorded in the receiver, and you can see it's quite good also. 1920 by 1088.
I think it should be 1920 by 1080, but whatever. So there we go. Now let me see what we have going on here. What is the deal with this? I guess that's a partition of, that's exFAT, 118 gigabytes. This is a 125 gigabyte card. And this is exFAT with only 254 megabytes. Well, I'm going to go ahead and format it right here real quick. And then we're going to reformat it in the VTX. Yeah, that didn't get rid of that extra partition, if that's what it is. Format. See, that's just incorrect. Why? So I'm going to have to get this figured out. Yeah, it still thinks there's two partitions on it. I'll take care of that off camera. What craziness. I ended up using Windows 10 disk management on that SD card. You can see it right here. I renamed it to Walksnail RX. And I now have, it's only 119 gigabytes of exFAT, but it's one partition now. So I'm going to run one more test. Okay, let's put the SD card back in the bench computer. And it pops up this time as one partition here of 119 gigabytes. Good, I think we solved that problem. And here is the secondary test video. Looks great. Don't see any OSD on it, but we're going to work through this as we go. So we can remove all of these from the SD card and eject that SD card. That is ready for use in the Walksnail now. Don't think I'll have any more trouble with it. Might need a little larger capacity. That's the brakes. So we have the transmitter still turned on and hooked to the USB. So all I have to do is turn on the USB. And we should pop up with the contents of the transmitter right here. We'll just look at that real quick. And that is also a very good 1920 by 1080 video. So we got that going. Still working on getting that VTX upgraded. We'll take that out. Now we're completely clean. What do we got there? Properties. 6.98 gigabytes. Ah, man, that just... don't think you're going to be able to record much on the VTX itself, but we'll see. So now I can eject what is actually not a USB device. It is a USB device, it's just not an SD card or anything. So there's the Walksnail video transmitter disconnected and the USB shut down on that. Let's look for firmware upgrade. I upgraded the Walksnail video transmitter. And now when I power up the whole unit, it'll do it in just a second here. It takes it a second. And we're not getting any complaints anymore about incompatible firmware. And if we run out to the menus, I think it's here. Yeah. And go to device info. We now see that the
Goggles software version, which technically is the standalone video receiver, it's not actually Goggles, is 29.33.16, and the transmitter software version is 29.33.16. So they agree now. There are no more conflicts. Now I need to get my unlocks done on both of them.
Well, that's kind of interesting. When I connected back to the video transmitter, the firmware upgrade file that I had copied to this is gone, and this file is in its place, and when you double click it, it says version 29.33.16. So I'm not sure what these two are. We'll get to that in a minute. So we're going to delete that file out of there. I don't need that in there anymore, I don't think. Still not very much storage there. Can you rename it? No, I don't want to rename it. Might get me in trouble with their firmware. Okay, I can eject. And then shut down that USB. Now we're looking for unlocks instead of firmware upgrades.
I put my upgrade files on the SD card, put it back in the video receiver, and as you can see here, it came back up without any complaints. Also says it's got 118.9 gigabyte in the SD card on the receiver now. That wasn't working too good before. 15 volts coming into the receiver. Transmitter's not connected right now. If we go into the menu area, we immediately see that we have channels 1 through 3 like we had before, and this CHP, plus we have 4, 5, 6, and 7 now. So we have unlocked it. This bad boy is pretty much ready for flight at this point. Just need to get it on a platform and start flying with it. So we'll back out of that, and I guess that's the end of this video for now. That kind of brings to close the Walksnail video. It's going to be real easy to hook these 4 wires to the H743 wing version 3. They go right straight across to voltage, ground, and TX3 and RX3 on the flight controller with a 4-pin DuPont connector. Real simple. So that's pretty much done. I also printed this out today. This is a little tripod mount for the Walksnail receiver. You do have to take one of the antennas off to get it on, and then it simply slips in, and a M3 screw, bolt, whatever, guess it's a bolt. They have nuts. Just screws right through there. And actually the threads are tight enough on this for the M3. Kind of have to hold it a little bit out of the mount as I get past that brass on that antenna because of the shoulder on this bolt. But now, there you go. And I'll keep it. And there it is in a little tripod mount, ready to be set up on a tripod. This is common tripod shoe here, if you know much about tripods. You can get to the HDMI easily through there. You can get to the SD card and the power there. There's nothing on that side, and you can get to the buttons on the top, which I learned as I worked with it today. If you hold it like this, so that the antennas are facing away from you, this jog button works correct right and left and forward and back. Right and left works exactly right and left in the menus, and forward is up in the menus, and backwards towards you is down. This works as a back button. I don't know that I use this record button for anything. That little recessed button right there, the hole, is the bind button to bind the receiver and transmitter together. That is it for this creature. So, it was a fun day. And that's a 1080 HD digital FPV system ready to go now. So, I don't know what else to say about it except for thank you.